So, of course, Javi did the presentation yesterday in Itagnol. I speak Espagliano. Itagnol is 70% of Italian, 30% of Spanish. Espagliano is 80% Spanish and 20% Italiano, so then I prefer to do in English. So we have a translator here, so it will be much better to do in English, and you have a good Italian to understand me. So before to start with, I would like to be provocative. So this is Marina di Carrara. If I ask you, do we have to do something in Marina di Massa? If we look to the photo, the 100% answer will be sicuro. If we move away and we look to the south from Marina di Carrara to Viareggio, so now the 100% sicuro, it is probabilmente. If I move to la Toscana regione, vedremo. So then, when we think about coastal management, when we think about beach management, it is a matter of scale. So then, if we look to not from the scientific standpoint, not from the local stakeholder standpoint, but from the standpoint of the general stakeholder, the manager from the Toscana region, the manager of the Catalonia region, so we have to adopt a large-scale approach. Why? Because this permits to, let's say, to optimize the resource that we have. So we have a limited amount of resources, especially now with the economic crisis. So we are not rich, or not rich enough. So you have a limited amount of money. And we have to decide where to put or where to allocate the resources in order to do the best decision, not for one location in particular, but for the entire Toscana region or the Catalonia region. So then I have to adopt a large-scale approach. Of course, if I look from the local stakeholder approach, the people living in Marina di Massa or the owner of the bagno in Marina di Massa, he will ask to do something right now in that position. But this is from the local standpoint. So then when we are talking about coastal management, when we are talking about beach management, we need to adopt a very large scale. So look into everybody. Because if not, if we give the power just to the local stakeholder, someone in Marina di Massa can decide to put a 200-meter or 300-meter long groin on the beach to stop all the sun just to create a beach in Marina di Massa. So he will solve the problem, but the problem will be transferred to Forte di Marmi. So then, when we are trying to adopt or to decide which is the best option for the coast, we cannot look just for the local approach. So we have to think in a global approach, especially if we have a limited amount of resources. If not, if we are rich enough, so there is no problem, just to put sun in front of Marina di Massa. If the sun is removed, we put again sun, and so on and so on. But we are not rich enough, at least in Spain. I don't know in Italy, but it seems that you are pretty similar. Okay, I don't try to teach you anything. We are in Forte di Marmi, and now we are going to look to Catalonia, just to show you what we have done in Catalonia, which are our problems in Catalonia, just to show you our situation. Maybe if it is useful for you, it's good. If they are not useful, I'm sorry. But it is my intention. So my intention is not to teach you anything. You have to do, or you have to make your own decision. So we are not expert to say you have to do this. It's just our expertise in our own problems. And as you will see, we have strong problems. The Catalonia coastline is about 700 kilometers, so I have half an hour using the same approach that Professor Pranzini, so I have to go to a speed of about 1,400 kilometers per hour because I have half an hour, now it's 20 minutes in order to describe which are the problems along the Catalonian coast. So this is 700 kilometers going from the north to south, so these are the different areas along the coast. And the most important thing is that in just 700 kilometers, so we have a very high geodiversity. So usually we talk about biodiversity, but I like to talk about geodiversity. So in the north, so we have a cliffy area with a lot of pocket beaches. In the central coast, we have very long and straight beaches. And even in the south, we have a very big delta, similar to the Po Delta, that this is the Ebro Delta. So we have a lot of natural geodiversity. But it's even more important that we have also a very long part of our coast that this is really human coast. because it has been created by ourselves. So this is Barcelona. This is a pure artificial coast. So the beach is artificial, the harbor artificial, and the growing artificial. But now this is the coast. So then if we have a problem, it is an artificial problem, it's an artificial coast, but once you build the artificial coast, it starts to behave like a natural one. When you have a storm, the beach will be eroded. So this problem we didn't have 20 years ago because we didn't have any beach in front of the city. But now we have a beach, and we have the same problem that in a natural beach. So then we have created something, and now we have created a problem for ourselves. So this is our geodiversity. But even worse, when we talk about problems, so we also have to talk in something more than geodiversity. We have to think on the consequence. So here we have the coastal comarca along the Catalonian coast from south to the north, and here we have a given number of indicators about which are the characteristics of the coastline. So in blue line, the blue line, it is the population along the coast. As you can see, it is the vertical axis, it is logarithmic axis. And this is the percentage above the total of Catalonia. As you can see, there is not a uniformity distribution of population along the coast. So we have a peak of concentration in the Barcelona. So the red star is indicating where Barcelona is. So then in Barcelona, we are concentrating most of the population. The black line is giving you the gross domestic product, economy. Again, it is not uniform. We have a peak also in Barcelona. The green line, it is the percentage of natural areas protected by law. It's indicating the richness in environmental values. It is the opposite of the black one. So where we have a very important area in economic terms, it is very low important. It is few important in environmental terms. And the purple line, it is indicating the number of tourist places along the Catalonian coast. Again, it is not uniform. So then we have one coast that is very diverse in terms of geomorphology, but it's also very diverse in terms of the, let's say, the richness, in terms of environment, in terms of money, and in terms of anything. So then we have some kind of spatial heterogeneity that we have to combine in order to decide where to do something. So erosion by itself is not a problem. Imagine that you remove everything from Marina di Massa, the population, the infrastructure, and anything. So then erosion is not a problem. Erosion will be a problem provided that the erosion is generating any consequence in the territory, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of economy, in terms of environment. So then we have to consider at the same time the natural processes and also the socioeconomy. So then we need information about which are the socioeconomic characteristics along the coast in order to decide, to properly decide where to allocate the resources. Otherwise, we are wasting the public money. Okay, we are talking about coastal risk. So this means that we have to analyze two things, the hazard and the consequence. When we talk about hazard, so most of the people here have been talking about erosion, probably because Marina di Massa is the most important hazard, is erosion. But you have also different hazards in your coast. You can have inundation, you can have pollution, and many more. And when we talk about consequence, we talk about economic consequence, social and environmental. If we look to Catalonia, that probably will be the same for here and in Italy. If we look to the beaches, we can identify essentially three main uses for the beach. The first one, in terms of priority for the administration, is recreation, tourism. It is the economic use of the coast. So we are putting people on the beach. The second one, it is protection. So the beach is protecting the infrastructure for the impact of the storm, as I presented before. And at the last, so normally the administration is not very worried about, or at least the stakeholders are not very worried about, it is the environmental value. So the coast itself, it is providing some natural value, as we saw yesterday with the Sardinia beaches, essentially. But these are the three main uses. So then when we talk about coastal risk, we have to evaluate the hazard, but we have to evaluate this. This is an example of the different risks that you can find for a tourist beach. So as in the back of the overhead, you have some pieces of newspaper from the Catalonian newspaper talking about different hazards in our beaches. So they are not unrealistic, so they are real ones. And we have put a keyword describing the risk in different colors. Erosion, it is in yellow one. It is related to littoral dynamics. But this is only one. So we have also some currents because are producing some drowning. We have a blue dot indicating climatology. So the new is saying that this year was a very bad year in climatological terms, so there was too many rainy days. So then the people going to the beach were lower, so we have a lower number of tourists. So then when we think about Forte di Marmi problem, when we think about Toscana problem, you are focusing just in erosion. Imagine that we stop the erosion, but now you have an oil spill. And all the beaches will be spoiled by the oil. So now erosion is not a problem, but you have a very important problem because you will have oil along your beach. So then when we talk about risk, now we are thinking just in erosion, but there is a lot of problems that can be affected to your beach. So erosion is not the only problem, just to think about it. So then when we talk about coastal risk, especially dealing with beach and dealing with the use of the beach for tourism, for recreation, so we have to think that that's something much more than erosion. We are going just to focus on erosion, but let's see. So this means that if we want to analyze one beach, we can put a conceptual model where we have all the processes acting on the beach, but now we are just focusing on erosion, which are the forcing, the process erosion, and it is affecting our beach. So it is, in a simple model, it is something like this. On the left, so we have all the processes, all the forcings. In the center, we have erosion, that is just one process. And in the right, so we have the consequence for tourists, for protection, and for natural processes, or natural values. But when we talk about erosion, erosion is a process, but it's acting at different scale. And it is a different scale is induced by different processes. So for instance, I presented erosion induced by storms. But in some cases, you have some background erosion that are not related to the storm itself. We are talking also about climate change. So then we have erosion related to climate change, sea level rise. So then when we talk about erosion, it is not so simple. So there is different processes that have to be analyzed in a different manner. Okay, so this is the introduction. What about Catalonia? So this is Catalonia. Oh, these are the 700 kilometers, and now we have put a dot in all the beaches along the Catalonian coast. Red dots are beaches being eroded. Green ones are stable or being accreting. Here we have collected shorelines from 1995 to 2010. And we make an analysis beach per beach in order to see which was the behavior of the shoreline. So then the 70% of our coast is erosive. Of course, if we take an average behavior, it is an erosion of about 1 meter per year. But this is not uniform. So here we have all the beaches, only the erosive beaches. Here you can see it's different circles, and the size of the circle, it is proportional to the erosion rate. As you can see, it is not homogeneous. So let's see some example in order to show which is the process behind. So let's go to the south, to the Ebro Delta. We find the biggest circle. Is this. So yesterday, Professor Pranzini said that he found one place in the Arno River with erosion rate of 20 meters per year. This is nothing, nothing. In Catalonia, we are biggest. So this is the Ebro Delta, and here we have a retreat of 2 kilometers in 50 years. 2 kilometers. So this means an erosion rate of 40 meters per year. Here, in this position. So then we won. So we have a largest erosion. Of course, nobody did anything here in order to solve the erosion. Why? Because behind the shoreline, we only have ducks. And the ducks has no money in order to pay for the beach nourishment. It is a wetland. We have nothing but a wetland. So then erosion is not a problem, provided that nobody claims for beach nourishment. The duck has no capacity to go to the newspaper and to write a news to say, okay, we want to do something on the beach. So then erosion itself is not a problem. The problem is not proportional to the magnitude of the hazard. It's proportional to the consequence. And here the consequence were a natural one. And as we said before, environmental issue is not an issue for the manager or for the stakeholder. Here, we are in a delta, as Professor Billy presented yesterday. So here, many of the problems are not related with something in the coast. So this is in the drainage basin. So here you can see, which is the black line. It is the liquid discharge in the Ebro River during the last 50 years. So we have a continuous decrease. And the red line, it is the number of dams and barriers that has been built in the last 50 years. So then we have an increase in the number of dams that are barriers for the sediment transport, and at the same time we have a decrease in the water discharge. That is not related to the dams, but to the water extraction for agriculture, climatology, and so on. This is water, and in the right-hand side, you can see which is the expected decrease or the estimated decrease in the solid discharge. The vertical axis, it is in logarithmic scale. So from the beginning of the century to the end of the century, the solid discharge from the river has decreased in 3 orders of magnitude. So now the sun supply to the coast is nothing. So then this is the reason because we have this. So then, similar to your case, so if we make a scheme of how we have to manage the coast, so we'll have the coastal fringe that this is in the center. This. We have the basin and we have the coastal sea. Normally, when we are thinking in beach management and coastal management, we can only work in this area, this. But in this case, the problem has been exported for the drainage basin. Today, we don't find any structure along the coast inducing this erosion. And if we want to solve the erosion from the origin of the erosion, we need to work here. But unfortunately, we cannot do it. So the management, at least in Spain, in the drainage basin and in the coastal zone are isolated. And normally in Italy will be the same, and it is also the same in the US and in many places. So we do something in the drainage basin. We talk about ecological flow for the fish and so on. So we worry about the salmon to go inside and to cross the barrier, but nobody take care about the sediment that is trapped on the barrier to go to the beach. So then we are looking to the system in a very different way. Okay, another area. This is the central part of Catalonia. So here we have Barcelona, and this is the north part of the province. So here we have the shoreline in different colors that are the different behavior. Here you have it. So this is a more or less continuous and uninterrupted coast in natural terms, but now we decide to build a series of marinas. And here you have the consequence. So what will you expect if you buy a barrier in a coast like this? So accretion and erosion. So then it is one of the reasons. But of course, again, so we have a collection of erosion point along the coast and accretion point. Do we have to do something? I don't know. Still, I don't know. I only have some measurement of the hazard. If I want to do something, I need to say that which are the consequences. If we think from the stakeholder standpoint, so we say, okay, I want to analyze from the recreation standpoint. So which is my target? My target is I need to have a beach wide enough in order to put people. So here we have 2 examples from Catalonia. So this is a very wide beach. We are only using this part. This part is not efficient for putting people. And this is another beach where we have, this is a really private beach. In Spain are public, but this is private because if you are the first one to arrive to the beach, it's your beach. That there is no place for anyone. Right? So this is my target. Okay, so then let's go to analyze the beach. I put all the beaches along the Catalan coast. I measure the size, the beach width, and I classify the beaches according to the size with respect to the need to put people and to maintain the recreational carrying capacity. So here you have different colors, and the purple and the red ones are the worst beaches along the coast for the recreational standpoint. At the optimum are the green ones. So we have the 25% at present are, let's say, not very good from the recreational standpoint. But this is today. This is not efficient for the manager. Because if I give this information for the manager has no time in order to look for a solution. So if I want to be useful for the manager, I have to give the information in advance. So then I make a projection for the next 10 years. What will happen in the next 10 years? So I do the same, and I now identify, according to the actual beach evolution rates and the actual beach width, which will be the situation in the next 10 years. So now identify which will be the good beaches along the coast in order to be or to maintain a given recreational capacity. So here in just 10 years, we have a decrease in the 15% of beaches with optimum recreational capacity. So now the manager know along the coast which are the beaches that are bad for the recreational standpoint. Protection, the second one. So here we have two infrastructure along the coast, in the Catalonian coast, and here the interest of the manager is to maintain a beach in front of the hinterland in order to protect the infrastructure. So here you have a Viale Costero, so here we have in Catalonia a coastal railway. So here, this is an area where we have not a beach, there is a storm impacting on the area, so we have not a beach, the storms are impacting on the seawall, protecting the coastal railway, and here the circulation of the train has to be stopped for a few hours. Here we have a road, the beach was really small, we have a storm, and the road was destroyed. So then we need some beach in front of the infrastructure. The main difference with the other one is that the optimum beach to protect the hinterland will depend on the storm of interest. So here we introduce the terms of probability. If we want to be protected for a storm of 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, or 100 years. So depend on the storm, so we'll need a given beach. We do the same analysis than before, but just for protection. And this is the configuration of the beaches to protect the hinterland for a storm of 25-year return period at present. And the same for the next 10 years. So we can make a forecast of what do we need in Catalonia for protecting this. Of course, here we are doing the analysis for all the beaches for recreational protection. But do we need to maintain both functions along the coast for all the beaches? Not necessarily. This is the central part of Catalonia. So here we have a collection of indicators providing information about which is the main use of the coastal municipality. So here we have urbanization, infrastructure along the coast, and the tourist business in economic terms. So then we can have an idea about, for each municipality, which is the real, let's say, vocazione of the municipality. It is a municipality devoted to tourists. It's a municipality where we have a lot of infrastructure. So then you can identify which will be the main issue for the beaches there. So then you can build what we call it the risk matrix. So here we have the hazard, that is the erosion. Here we have for the recreational an index about the economic importance of tourists. Here we have for protection an index about the percentage of infrastructure in the coastal area. And we can cross the information in order to identify which are the risky municipalities for recreation and for protection. So then you can decide where to invest money, if protection is your main issue, or if recreation is your main issue. So this is not related to the hazard. It's a combination of the hazard and the consequence. So what have we done in Catalonia in order to solve the problem? So essentially, put sand. So here you have the cumulative volume of sediment that we have put in Catalonia coastline during the last 30 years. So we have put more than 25 million of cubic meter of sand. Each cubic meter of sand in Spain is about 6 euros, is the cost. We have sand, we have a lot of sand, we have also Posidonia, so then we have to take the sand where we don't have Posidonia. But we have sand, and the cost is about 6 euros. So this is, as you can see, we have most of the beach nourishment has been done before the 90s, and we have just a few ones at present. So we have 25 million of cubic meter of sand used for Catalonia. But of course, this is just one operation. This is not enough. So here you have an example. So this is in the north part of Barcelona. So here we have a harbor. This is in 1956. As you can see, there is no beach at all. So we have a collection, a growing field, but there is no sand. So then we build another harbor here. From here to here, there is a distance of about 4.5 kilometers. And later on, we make a supply. We remove the growing field because we have the growing, but there was no sediment to be trapped. So then it is not a coastal solution. So we remove the growing, and we put about 3.5 million of cubic meter of sand in the 1994. And we have we have done anything more there. So then here is the behavior of the coast. We have no erosion, the coast was stable because we have no beaches, we make the nourishment, and this was the behavior. So once we put the sun, we have to have a compromise with the territory that we have to re-nourish the area, because the problem is still there. So the problem is not to put sun, the problem is to have the resource enough in order to maintain this decision for a long time. I can find 1 million of cubic meter of sun, but now in the next 3 years, a presidente della comune or della regione has to decide, has to pay for a new nourishment of another million. And in the next 3 or 5 years, the same. So then you need to allocate the resources, not just for present, but also for the future. And this is something that we have to consider. If the recreational, it is the main goal, so we have to create and to maintain and to provide beach surface. So before you saw using just beach nourishment, in some cases we have to combine to make some kind of artificialization. This is like Marina di Massa, which is the main difference. This is Sitges. If you go there, it's plenty of people. It's a really rich village. They maintain, but they don't only have the beach, because the beach itself is, for me, I don't like the beach. But if you go there, the village has a very nice atmosphere. There is a lot of bars, there is a lot of ambiente. Especially ambiente is important for the gay tourists in Europe. It is one of the most important destinies for the gay tourists in Europe. But it is pretty similar to Marina di Massa. But this is the recreative goal, so we need the beach. If the goal is protection, so normally, in Spain at least, so we have a reactive management. We only act when we have a problem. So here you have an example. This is north of Barcelona. This is a pumping station from a desalination plant during a storm. So then we have a problem of infrastructure damage. So here you have a reactive measurement. So they create a beach nourishment just to protect the station. They increase the beach width. The lifetime of this beach nourishment was 2 months. Because this is a very coarse sand area, so then it's very steep. So then they put sediment there, but the slope is pretty similar or even gentler, the natural slope, than the native one. So then with the first wave, all the sand disappeared. But it was a reactive. It was just to protect because we have a problem. So if you have really a very important infrastructure, the coast is not important. If the importance is the viale costero, I don't worry about the beach. I worry about the viale costero. So then I built a big seawall in order to protect the viale costero. Why I have to put sun in front of the viale costero? Why? If the sun, it is limited resources, I use these resources for the really important area where we need the sun. So then we have to decide along the territory which is the main goal, which is the main issue, which are the main activity or our main vocazione. And according to this, we have to decide which is the best option. So the same option cannot be used for everybody. So when we deal with about coastal protection, so we have to consider that now when we have problems related to coastal protection, they will not be steady. So this is a collection of damage along the Catalonian coastal zone. So forget the trend, because apparently there is an increasing trend in time of the coastal damage. This is on the one side because we are putting much more things along the coast, so then we are increasing the values at risk. For the same storm, we are putting much more important things along the coast. But if we focus on the present time, so we have a relative high value, and as I saw you before, so we have eroding coast. So this means that the beach protecting our values are decreasing. So even with the same storminess, we are going to suffer much and much more damage. So then we have to decide very clearly what to do regarding protection. And our future is not especially white. At least it's gray. I will say black, but especially gray. If the manager or the official manager, the administration, doesn't do anything, we have a problem. Because we have what I call the gerente per conta propria. So the stakeholder go to the coast and protect their property. So here we have a campsite. They have erosion, and they decide to put a seawall in order to protect the installation from the campsite. This is illegal. In Spain, the only one that has the right to do any protection in the coast is the Ministry of Environment. But this guy was claiming to the ministry, do anything because I am being attacked by the storm. But the ministry says, wait, we have to study, wait, and so on. But of course, the waves and the storm are not waiting for the ministry, so start to attack to the installation of the campsite. So then the guy or the owner of the campsite decided to put a seawall, a small one, just to protect their property. Which were the consequence? Of course, the property was protected, the beach disappeared in front of the seawall, but even worse, they transferred their problem to the other one. And of course, the another owner of the campsite decided to do something similar and start to put a stone on the beach. Of course, everything is illegal. So this means that the ministry say, oh, you are illegal, so this is a fine. Okay, I will not pay. So let's go to the judge and wait for 3 or 4 years fighting with my lawyers and so on. But in the meantime, so you have the problem there. So here, we have another example. So this guy say, okay, I have really in internet is the worst invention ever. So the guy went to internet and decided to look for a solution. And he found something related to geotextile, saco de savia. So then he went to one contractor, say, okay, I want some saco de savia. You know, this saco is what we use when you are building a house at home, and they put on the street this saco in order to put all the rest of the building in order to be removed. So then the was guy said, okay, I will serve you. It's cheaper than a geotextile. And they did it. It is gerenciamiento per conta propia. So then this is another problem. If the administration doesn't take an action, so normally the stakeholder will try to do by themselves. And this is a big problem because in some cases they don't have any technical criteria to do it. So normally we can say, okay, I have an invention to do this, but in some cases the invention is worse than the original situation, so take care. So just to finalize, so how is my view or perception about beach management in Catalonia in particular, and Mediterranean in general? So most of the time is negative. Sometimes it's very negative, and only few times my view is positive or my perception is positive. And the problem is that the future could be even worse. Because if we are not taking action now, the things are going on. So then we can go even to a worse situation. So just to give you, gracias por la sua attenzione. Later I will give you any answer to any questions.